Chosen ones, put salt in your shoes and see what happens. Welcome back to Secrets of the Bible, where the chosen rise and their purpose is revealed. Chosen ones, this message is for you. Have you ever heard the phrase, put salt in your shoes? It might sound like folklore, something passed down without meaning. But what if that simple act carried more power than you think? What if that salt isn't superstition, but a sign, a quiet, spiritual signal that you're no longer walking like the world? You're walking like someone who's been called. Across ancient cultures and spiritual traditions, salt has always carried weight, not just for flavor, but for power, for purification, for protection, for purpose. And when placed in your shoes, it doesn't just touch your feet. It transforms your walk, your energy, your atmosphere. Because chosen ones don't walk like everyone else. They carry weight. They carry vision. They carry fire beneath their steps. And today, we're going to unpack the mystery. Why this act matters. Why your feet are sacred. And why putting salt in your shoes could be the spiritual shift you didn't know you needed until now. If this message reached you at a time when your soul is weary, type 11 in the comments as a sign that you're still walking, still rising, still chosen. Don't forget to subscribe to Secrets of the Bible and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a word that's meant to meet you right where you are. Your journey matters, and you're not alone on this path. Let's walk deeper. That small handful of white grains carries something ancient, something eternal. And if you trace its story back before modern kitchens, before rituals became trends, you'll find salt woven into the foundation of the sacred. Long before anyone knew your name, salt was used to seal covenants between God and man. In ancient Hebrew tradition, every offering brought to the altar had to be seasoned with salt, a symbol that the commitment was pure, unbreakable, and would not decay over time. Salt didn't just flavor, it preserved. It meant this offering mattered. It meant something holy was being handed over. And it didn't stop there. In the East, salt was believed to drive out negative spirits and cleanse the path ahead. In the West, Roman soldiers were paid in salt. It was so valuable, it became currency. Even the word salary comes from salt. In homes across centuries and continents, it was used to purify spaces, protect thresholds, and sanctify beginnings. Salt has always meant more than seasoning. It has meant stability, sanctity, survival. It preserves what's good. It purifies what's not. It holds things together when everything else begins to break down. And that's where this journey begins, not with a superstition, but with a shift. Because the moment a chosen one puts salt in their shoes, they're not performing a ritual. They're declaring something in the unseen. Your steps are not ordinary. Your path is not polluted. And your walk is not for entertainment, it's for alignment. You begin to realize this isn't about the shoes. It's about what's inside of them. It's about who's walking. You, a soul that's been pulled out of the crowd. A spirit that was set apart before you could even speak your name. The salt isn't there to protect your feet. It's there to consecrate your walk. Because chosen ones don't just go through life, they shift atmospheres. They carry something. And once the salt is in your shoes, something shifts. You can't walk the same when you understand what you carry, because every step becomes more than movement, it becomes meaning. Salt has touched your feet, and in the spirit, your feet are never just flesh and bone. They are where authority meets the earth, where dominion is declared. Wherever you set your foot will be yours. That was the promise spoken over the chosen. Your feet represent direction, decisions, and destiny. And now that path is seasoned with what cannot spoil. Salt doesn't just keep you from failure, it keeps your purpose from fading. In a world where people walk for applause, for money, for attention, you walk for something higher. You walk for peace. You walk because you were sent. And when the salt settles in, something in you settles too. You stop rushing to be seen. You no longer step into rooms you weren't called to. You stop chasing validation and start walking with conviction. Your presence speaks before your mouth does. Your boundaries become sacred. Your silence carries weight. You walk differently, not because the world changed, but because you did, and people notice. You weren't louder, but somehow heavier. You weren't trying, but doors started opening. You didn't ask to be recognized, but the room shifted anyway. That's what happens when salt touches the walk of someone who was never meant to blend in. And it doesn't just touch the path, it settles in the shoes, the space between your body and the ground, the threshold that carries the weight of your journey. Shoes aren't just covering, they're testimony. They hit the hard places first. They hold the dust, the pressure, the wear. So when you place salt there, you're not just blessing the journey, you're sanctifying the carrier. You're declaring that even the worn-out parts of your life, the tired places, the unnoticed spaces deserve sacred protection. And when what carries you is clean, what you carry becomes heavier, every step holds purpose. Every decision carries clarity. This is how the chosen walk. Not above, not ahead, but apart. Consecrated, with steps preserved by truth, shoes filled with covenant, and a walk that echoes back to a call made before you ever spoke your name. This shift isn't poetic, it's practical. Because when your walk is holy, your choices change. You don't go where peace doesn't lead. You don't stay where your spirit shrinks. You no longer follow noise, you follow presence. And soon your walk becomes your witness. The truth about salt is, it doesn't just preserve, it purifies. And purification, by nature, is not gentle. Salt will sting before it heals. And when you're chosen, that sting shows up in the places you never expected. You start walking with intention, with covenant, with clarity, and suddenly the people you used to laugh with don't feel safe anymore. The environments you tolerated now feel toxic. The distractions you once entertained start making you sick. It's not because something is wrong with you. It's because the salt is working. Salt exposes what can't go with you. It draws out the things that have been buried. Old habits, unhealed wounds, silent compromises, things you thought you could manage start rising to the surface. You feel the sting in your mind when your old ways of thinking don't work anymore. You feel it in your relationships when you can't pretend to be someone you're not. You feel it in your body, your mood, your spirit, because the walk is getting heavier, holier, and more honest. And yes, it's uncomfortable. It's confusing. Sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart. But the truth is, things are just being cleansed. The salt is not punishing you, it's preparing you. It's not hurting you, it's making room for what's true. Because when you're chosen, you don't get to walk in covenant and comfort at the same time. That's why the path narrows. That's why you lose access to certain conversations, platforms, and friendships. Not because you're better, but because you're walking through fire with salt in your shoes, and anything that's not meant for the next version of you starts to fall away. This is the part no one posts about. The in-between. The stretch. The sacred isolation. But this is also where your walk becomes rooted. Where your steps stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. Where you no longer walk to prove, you walk to preserve. You're not moving out of insecurity anymore. You're moving out of clarity. And the more it burns, the more you realize you're being healed in places you didn't even know were wounded. Salt gets into the cracks, into the pores, into the hidden places. And yes, it stings, but it also seals. It also strengthens. So if it hurts right now, don't turn back. The sting is not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're shedding the version of yourself that was never meant to last. It's a sign that the salt is doing what only salt can do, breaking you down to build you stronger. This is where you begin to see the effects of walking with salt. After the burn, after the shedding, something begins to change, not just in you, but around you. And it's not magic. It's alignment. At first, nothing around you looks different. The streets are the same. The people are the same. The routine continues. But you are not the same. And without warning, things start to move. Conversations shift. Rooms feel different. Your presence starts stirring what used to sit still. You didn't get louder. You didn't try harder. But the energy around you begins to respond. Because when you walk with salt in your shoes, the ground under you is no longer neutral, it's sacred. It knows you've changed. It knows something holy is walking here now. And creation, whether it understands you or not, can't help but make space for what's been consecrated. But what really changes is you, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you move through rooms that once made you shrink. Let's talk about how this looks in real life, because for some, the salt might be symbolic. But the effect, it's deeply practical. When you're stepping into a hard conversation, salt in your shoes reminds you to speak with truth and grace, not performance, not fear. When you walk into a workplace that drains your soul, salt grounds your energy and protects your spirit. You're not picking up every atmosphere anymore. When you're walking away from something toxic, salt purifies your path so you don't carry residue into the next season. You don't trail guilt, shame, or confusion. You walk clean. Even your posture shifts. You no longer walk in fear, in anxiety, in codependency. You walk with discernment. You walk like someone who's not just going somewhere, you're becoming someone. You walk like someone who knows I am set apart, and the shift beneath you, that's just confirmation of the shift within you. The favor you used to chase now starts finding you. The closed doors you thought were rejection begin to look like protection. The people who overlooked you now feel your absence like a gap they can't fill. But this isn't a season of proving. It's a season of placement, not performance presence. Because chosen ones don't rise by demanding. They rise by alignment. And when your steps are aligned, things start coming into order, not all at once, but undeniably. Resources show up. Insight flows. Clarity sharpens. Not because you forced it, but because you finally walked like you believed you were chosen. And it's not just blessings you start noticing, it's boundaries. The wrong people start backing away. The invitations that used to excite you now feel empty. You feel the quiet protection of salt surrounding your life like a perimeter. Not a wall, but a line of divine distinction. Even your no becomes sacred. Your delays feel purposeful. And you start realizing that every shift is God's response to your walk. The moment you walked with intention, the atmosphere began reordering itself to match your frequency. This is the power of walking salted, quiet, steady, heavy with truth, not needing applause, not needing confirmation. Just knowing I'm where I'm supposed to be, carrying what I was always meant to carry. By now, you've probably realized it. This was never about the ritual. It was never about salt for salt's sake. It was always about you, about your alignment, about remembering what the world tried to make you forget. The salt wasn't meant to impress. It wasn't meant to be posted or explained. It was meant to consecrate, to mark a shift in the way you move, to quietly say, I will no longer walk like I'm common. I will no longer treat my path like it's random. I was sent here. I was chosen. Because life has a way of distracting the called, of pulling you into busyness, comparison, burnout. But salt pulls you back. It doesn't entertain the ego. It doesn't soothe the flesh. It whispers, come back into alignment. It reminds you that you're not just trying to get somewhere, you're being prepared for where you were always meant to be. When you place salt in your shoes, you weren't performing a tradition, you were responding to a summons. You were answering a quiet instruction that bypassed logic and spoke straight to your spirit. And in doing so, you didn't just change direction, you reclaimed identity. This walk you're on isn't aesthetic. It's ancestral. It's sacred. It was carved out before your body ever hit the earth. And every step forward now carries the weight of that truth. Not perfection, but purity. Not striving, but surrender. You start realizing the most powerful things you've done weren't loud. They were sacred, quiet, hidden, but deeply aligned. And now, the walk you carry is not just an act of faith, it's a reflection of memory, of knowing where you came from, of remembering who you are. Now that you've remembered, you cannot walk the same. You've tasted what it means to be aligned. You've felt the shift beneath your feet, the burn that purified you, the weight of presence guiding your path. And now the only thing left to do is move forward. But this time, not with fear, not with striving, not with small steps rooted in survival. You walk forward as someone who knows, I'm not lost. I'm not random. I'm chosen. The ground ahead of you isn't something to figure out, it's something to claim. And not because it's easy, but because it's yours. You walk forward knowing that the salt didn't change the world, it changed you. It cleared your path. It silenced your panic. It stripped off everything that no longer fit the shape of your calling. And what's left now is clarity, peace, conviction, authority. You may still face resistance, but you won't walk reactive. You may still walk into unknowns, but you won't walk unarmed. You may still feel the sting, but now you know it's only evidence that you're being refined for what's next. So you walk forward not to be discovered, but to be deployed. Not for visibility, but for victory. Not just to arrive, but to embody the truth you carry. And everywhere you go, the ground will recognize what you've been through. The spiritual realm will respond to what you've survived, because the one walking now is not the same one who started. So if you've been walking quietly with salt in your shoes, keep walking. Keep showing up. Keep protecting your path. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to convince anyone. Because what's happening isn't just a journey, it's an unfolding of identity, of purpose, of legacy. Walk forward like someone who remembers what's been placed inside of them. Walk forward like someone whose steps are not casual, they're covered. Walk forward like someone who knows the salt wasn't superstition, it was sacred. And now, so are you. If this message spoke to something deep in your spirit, let us know in the comments. Share your story below. What are you walking away from? What are you walking toward? Let this be a space where the chosen connect, remember, and walk together in alignment. Don't forget to subscribe to Secrets of the Bible and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next word meant just for you. You're not walking alone.